Good morning. This is exam 2, Math 1324, number 4. I wrote the general problem, the setup of the problem, and I'll fill in the blanks as we go. It's not really that big of a deal, but I do see people get this one wrong, and I don't really know why. It's kind of, if you just dissect what it's telling you, it's quite easy. Seed costs for a farmer are $55 per acre for corn and $110 per acre for soybeans. How many acres of each crop should the farmer plant if she wants to spend no more than $4,400 on seed? I should say, when I say mistakes, I'm not just saying people that don't do their homework and it's completely clueless. I see actually pretty good students that are obviously working on their homework, and I think they just don't pick up on some of the subtle, they're not really subtle. If you look at them, they're like screaming right at you, but if you don't know they're there, they may appear very subtle. Anyway, what the problem wants you to do is express your answer as a linear inequality with appropriate non-negative restrictions and draw its graph. And then it even tells you to let x be the number of acres planted of corn and let y be the number of acres planted with soybeans. Well, what I wanted to point out, first of all, is it says you want to spend, and this is where I don't see at least people get this part right, you want to spend no more than $4,400. Right away, whatever my inequality is, it's going to be less than or equal to $4,400. I mean, that it just told you no more than $4,400, and the rest you could probably just figure out by trial and error. And then it told you to let x be the number of acres you planted with corn and y with the number of soybeans. Well, this is dollars, and $55 per acre of corn, so I'll have 55x plus the amount of money that I spend on my acres of soybeans. In grad school we use sugar beets a lot for whatever reason. 110 times however many acres I plant, and there's my inequality. And basically what I see people mess up, because all the answers are pretty much the same, and I did forget the restraints, the x and y constraints, but I'll address those in a minute, is the sign of the inequality here. And I mean, if you're going to spend no more than a certain amount, then it's got to be less than or equal to. Otherwise it would say less than 40, wants to spend less than 40, then it would be strictly less than. But anyway, we know that we can't plant negative acres of corn, so our acres of corn must be greater than or equal to 0. Now, we might, for whatever reason, we've done some of those linear programming and optimization problems, we might decide that it's more profitable to plant all soybeans or all corn, so it could be 0, but you can't plant like negative. We're not in like the upside down world or something. But anyway, x is greater than or equal to 0, and same thing with the acres of soybeans, y is greater than or equal to 0 for the same reasons. You can plant 0 acres of soybeans, but you can't plant negative acres of soybeans. So that's part of this question. The other part of it is to graph the inequalities. And this is the part where, again, I commented in another video, several videos, made my Math Lab video. So what I see people get wrong is they get this inequality right, but they can't get the correct shaded region because they forget these constraints. These are important. Just because they're on the end doesn't mean they're less important. There is, I guess to say there is no hierarchy in math, but really there isn't. Everything is important. We don't like just put out details in there just to make it confusing. Those are the jobs of other people, I guess, like politicians or salesmen. But anyway, sorry. It says that x and y are greater than 0. We've had this, so we have to graph the x and y axis. So if x is going to be greater than or equal to 0, we must graph the y-axis, because on the right side of the y-axis, x is positive. Likewise, if y is going to be greater than or equal to 0, we must graph the x-axis, because above the x-axis, y is positive. So we already know that in order for, so a lot of times you'll only see the first quadrant. In fact, I think the problem only gives you the first quadrant, but you have to graph those axes or it won't work for you. But we already know our feasible set is living in this region of the xy plane, and it has to do with that we can't make negative products. So the other one is just simply to graph this. I'll graph it with x and y intercept. Let's see, when y is equal to 0, x is equal to 4400 divided by 55, which is 80. And the y-intercept will be 4400 divided by 110, which is 40. I just like to do that to know how to build my scale. So I'll put 80 out here. And then this will be, that'll be 80 right there, about halfway between is 40. And then I'll graph that thing. It's just a line. It is mixed inequality, less than or equal to, so it will be a solid line. And then I can choose, there's no reason to graph the rest of it because we already know it's in here. I could choose the test point. 55 plus 110 is what? 165. Well, that's certainly less than or equal to 4400. So I have, this is my feasible region, and that's all there is to that problem. And again, when you work through this, you probably should go and review that video I made of me working it on a calculator and inside of my math lab, because I actually show you the little, I guess, you know, for people that don't like to read instructions on how to do things, but you can watch me do it.